Yancey County Sheriff Shane Hilliard today. Shane Hilliard was born here. He is the native son of Yancey County, born and raised on the South Toe River. And his law enforcement career has been the last 20 years in our county sheriff's office. I think he's done everything from bailiff to canine deputy to administration. In 2014, he became the chief deputy, and in 2022, he was appointed and then elected as sheriff. I'm going to be real brief because I want to hear his stories, but 2 years and 9 months into his watch, Hurricane Helene hit Yancey County, and there are not enough words in the dictionary to describe how fortunate we are that he was in the leadership role that he is still in when that happened. Yeah, that's that. So, please help me welcome Sheriff Hilliard.
Well, start out with thanking you for having me up. And how many of you was here on the mountain on the 27th? It's quite a few. So, you know, as the storm approached, the reports kept getting worse and worse. And, you know, we've seen reports similar in nature over the years, but nothing could prepare us for what was going to happen the morning of September 27th. You know, I think we all kept thinking, like everybody, it's going to miss us. It always does, but it didn't this time. So I've got a lot of pictures and videos from that morning and the days after. So this is 1980. This is what we encountered just after daylight here in the county. That the picture with the red truck there is heading east, just on the outskirts of town. This picture right here is the Clyde McIntosh Bridge, just here at Riverside. So for those of us that was in Burnsville, we were kind of stuck on an island, so to speak. I had deputies out in all the communities the night before the storm, and they were cut off from us, we were cut off from them.
Would it be possible for you to make your way down to Subway on 19? We got 2 subjects ready from cars. We probably have 4 subjects ready from call car and 19.
So I've got some radio transmissions that are actually from the day of the storm. So that was Subway and 19, there in town. The water was so deep we were pulling people out of cars that morning.
If anyone was calm, do we have a shelter that is reachable from Burnsville?
So that slide on your right is Highway 80 South.
Section 180, you can read section 14.
Actually, both those pictures are Highway 80 South. So that's, you know, going up South Toe River, we were totally cut off, couldn't get in or out initially. Again, more pictures of Michael Lou. There's 19 as the water started receding just right outside town. Some of the homes. This here is down there on the Toe River just before O.C. Whitson's store that morning. This right here, the house you're seeing floating down, is my house I grew up in. That's my parents' home. The house that it's colliding into is my 92-year-old grandmother's home.
It had some rain the day before, a couple of days maybe.
This is my mother talking here.
On that morning, Friday morning, the river was starting to get up. But our creek beside their house had built their tile. So this was about 2:15 in the morning. So we got in our truck and we pulled out into the highway so we could keep a watch on the river. But at that point, the river wasn't rising very fast. It was still down in the very bottom part of our yard. So we sat there for probably 3 hours, and then the creek beside our house started getting high. So my mom lives across the street, so
So, my mom and dad had lived in that house just over 40 years on the South Toe River. My grandmother, that's what was left of her house, virtually nothing. She said she's 92. She waded through the water to get out, and she lost everything.
Well,
That's my grandmother.
storm like this, and we lived with that river since 1954, and I enjoyed living by the river. But anyway, this place was different. I never dreamed of losing my house. It was a very well-built house. And we just thought, well, that was handle my family if we got to be glad that it didn't handle the family. So it's very overwhelming. It still seems like a dream, but I'm so thankful that we got out alive and that all my family is safe. We are a very close family. And
So, like I said, I grew up in the one home there. My grandmother lived right across the road. And that morning, some of the firemen said across the radio that their homes was gone. And I thought, they don't mean they're gone, they mean they're flooded. And I said, can you find my parents? And they said, we can't find them. And so that went on for what seemed like an eternity. I remember where I was at. I was in the Wyndham community. We were rescuing some people out of a home when they yelled across the radio. They said, we found them, they're safe. So thank God they all did get out safe, and they're rebuilding as we speak. This video right here is Cattail Creek community. That morning.
Go ahead, Alfred. Sheriff Officer, countywide trailer at this time, Wayne and residents was subject inside over the steps of the MRAP, or anyone in the MRAP, and Couple Fire Department. There is subject in trailers at this time, with trailers in and get down the river.
That was one of my.
We notified 100.
That was one of my deputies in Pensacola, making that radio transmission. There was 2 trailer parks that got washed away on Pensacola. So then we get a call that there's a missing fireman on Pensacola.
Did you ever take pictures of 1,500 units? Lately, lying in the possession of a large front end loader, we got a whole lot of free. I mean, get the boat roller, it's the loader roller at the time uncleared. The three of them, we worked my way back to the station. I do believe the roadway is fast, and it takes my equipment up there. I'm going the roadway trying to get to them. That made it back to the dumpster at this time.
So that's one of the deputies you hear who had commandeered a loader from the gravel crusher on Pensacola and was driving it to try to find the fireman who was missing.
Well, it left the
Here's the story of
community
this
both
fire.
scarred and scared, but somehow they summoned strength.
I just want people to understand that you can't give up. You gotta push no matter what.
Maybe this church that withstood the floodwater is an image of enduring faith. Meanwhile, Howard and Lisa Ray are symbolic of Pensacola's will to survive.
And I don't understand. We shouldn't be alive. I mean, there's just no way. It's all God.
where our house was,
No sign of home anymore. Most everything washed away.
We passed down there.
The flooding swamped their trailer.
I just knew we were dead.
But Lisa says an act of God gave the Rays a chance to escape.
The trailer started filling up, and it's like he opened a piece up, and I just had to sit down on that couch, and we floated out.
Incredibly, she and her husband held onto that sectional couch as a flotation device along the Keene River. The water line, 25 to 30 feet above normal.
While she was still on the couch, I was just holding on to her And I remember her saying, we're gonna drown, and I'm like, no. I was like, if we're gonna drown, we're gonna drown together.
They held on for dear life, riding that piece of furniture their dog loved to lay on.
We eventually floated down, like I said, 400 yards. And then I told her to jump.
That's what's left of the barbed wire.
Of course, sharp wire isn't the ideal lifeline, but it was their only choice.
When he said jump, I just jumped and I grabbed the barbed wire fence and wrapped my hand around it and pulled myself up.
That's what she grabbed a hold of.
Then they waited in his garage for hours, waiting for the water to subside.
So that was, it seemed like that morning that went on for an eternity, finding out. We just knew that they were dead. Nobody could find them. And then finally we got the word they found them in that garage. Then our first body we recovered will be this next video talking about her.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, I've got some coordinates. We just took a 911 call in AEOC referencing subject being washed away. I have coordinates here.
Was the fireman's wife's best friend. She was a major at the Madison County Sheriff's Office. She lived here, resided in our county.
From the hospital, she learned her best friend, Michelle Quintero, died in the flooding.
I just collapsed.
Michelle was a captain with the Madison County Sheriff's Office, and so much more.
What kind of person was she?
She was a good person. She was a great mother. She had one grandbaby and one grandbaby on the way.
Through the pain,
This video here is, if you're familiar with Highway 80 South and the intersection of Michaelville Loop, that right there is the post office, what used to be the post office, and it is gone. If you're familiar with Michaelville, that's Crabtree Creek. That's not from here to the wall wide normally. And just upstream from this was Michaelville Elementary School. It was built in 1930. That flooded and is now been closed since the hurricane. So that's actually my daughter was in second grade there, and my wife's family, 4 generations, have attended that school. In my wife's family. So again, just some more pictures of the roads. It's Highway 80 South. Then, once the water started receding, we run into all the debris. And there for those first few days, it was just us. As you know, if you were here on the mountain, it was just neighbors helping neighbors. This is a video about Pensacola.
During Hurricane Helene, rainfall in Pensacola, North Carolina resulted in devastating mudslides and caused the Cane River to rise more than 25 feet above its normal level, destroying infrastructure, property, and life. This is the Cane River's normal water level. During Helene, it grew 10 times its normal size. The following events are what the Rogers witnessed from their front porch on Friday, September 27th.
I'm filming this because I don't think anybody would believe it if I didn't. This is our front yard, down near the pond.
Oh gosh, there it goes. Oh my gosh. Oh my lord.
I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
That was shot, if you're familiar with Pensacola, you're Wilson Road toward the head of Pensacola. So not far from the end of the runway, just a little ways on upriver. This is Pensacola right here. What's left of the road up there that morning. It's O.C. Whitson's store down on Toe River. That's Newdale Bridge on 1980. So that, the company the county has contracted with is a company called SDR that's getting up the debris. I was talking to the guy who's over our project the other day. He said he's been doing this 30 years. He said by far, this is the most debris they've ever seen in a hurricane, what is in Yancey County. These are some videos of
every step you took today was a step forward, no matter how small.
just kind of that morning of, and right after.
Obstacles, and you kept moving. Remember, every effort counts. Every bit of progress matters. You're building a better tomorrow with every action you take today. The struggles you faced, they're just stepping stones leading you to greater heights. You're stronger than you realize, more capable than you give yourself credit for. Be proud of yourself. You're doing the work, making things happen. Your journey is unique, and every twist and turn is shaping you into the incredible person you are meant to be. Sleep well, knowing that you are on the right path. Make today as beautiful as you can. Let no one take away your happiness. Smile.
This right here is Bowlins Creek, going up Pensacola. You know, as we started getting help in here, you know, the days following it, I'll never forget talking to, you know, a lot of the FEMA workers and a lot of the rescue teams that come in, and then Samaritan's Purse. And we kept hearing the same thing over and over. This is the worst thing we've ever seen. They said, no other disaster that we've ever been to can compare to what we've seen here. There's the big water tank down in Michael. We went to Spruce Pine, you saw that thing laying on there for a while. That's one of my deputies. That's one of our patrol vehicles. He got caught in the middle of the windstorm, and you can see he's on 197 right there, and just the trees come down everywhere. But fortunately, he got out without any harm. We were able to actually save the truck, get the dents beat out of it, still using it now. And then, if you were up here, the helicopters came like nothing I've ever seen before. There was more helicopters in the air. I've never been in the military, but I can imagine that's what a war zone was like those days after all the helicopters started rolling in. The morning of the storm, the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, we have a thing called Sheriffs Helping Sheriffs. And, you know, leading up to the storm, they prepared, they're like, down east is willing to come to Western North Carolina. If you need help, just let us know. So somehow, I was the first county to be able to call. And it was just a miracle that morning, probably about 10 o'clock, I was able to get a phone call out. I couldn't, it's the only phone call I got out that day, I think, after the phones went out. And I was able to get a hold of Raleigh, and I said, I need help. And I told him, I said, send Bearcats and personnel. So those are what we call Bearcats, those armored vehicles. And I remember the guy at Raleigh, he goes, I don't understand. He said, those are used for hostage situations. I said, you don't understand what we're looking at. I said, a regular vehicle's not going anywhere up here. I need big vehicles. So they sent that. That's actually probably, that photo was taken, I guess on Saturday or Sunday night. We're moving food from the school, one school's cafeteria to another one, trying to preserve the food because we knew we was going to need it, you know, to run these shelters with. Again, the Highway 80 South there, that slid off just before Blue Rock Road. This is Tootie's Creek. This is the landslide that took several lives on Tootie's Creek. So which is just, you know, right off the end of your runway here. That landslide was unreal. Probably, in my opinion, that area, as far as devastation, is probably the worst area. I mean, that landslide just destroyed everything on Tootie's Creek up at the end. Yeah, that's 197, going across Green Mountain.
For plumbing and such, so it's a tough deal. But, you know, yesterday I met up with Sheriff Shane Hilliard here, Sheriff of Yancey County, and some of the roads are only accessible by UTV, parts of them, and he took me for a ride and showed me some of the areas, and I just captured some of what he was talking about as we took that ride. So why don't you listen to Sheriff Hilliard here.
This is Tootie's Creek. Tootie's Creek. Tootie, yeah, right here across the bridge. Well, where the bridge used to be. Yeah, so there was a, you know, state concrete bridge here originally. And again, this was all paved, state road. Unbelievable land. Drought. People lost so much. We're good. I guess. A little better every day. We had a lady reach out to us, I guess, toward the end of last week and said it was laying on her heart to buy us a side-by-side. It's a necessity because, you know, we're not getting a patrol car up these roads to, you know, if we have to get into these areas. When the storm hit, I had deputies out in all the communities that we put somebody in, and, you know, they got cut off. They couldn't get back to us. We had no radio contact with them. We had no cell phone contact with them. So there was about a 24-hour period. We didn't even know if some of our deputies who was working made it through the storm. There was still some trapped for several days in areas, but they were okay. This is one of the homes of one of the deputies here at the Yancey County Sheriff's Office. And you can see his home's totally destroyed.
10% of your employment force has lost their homes in this deal.
Yes, sir. They continue to still work, and yeah, I mean, it's, I can't imagine what they're going through, you know, personally.
So your wife's grandfather started this down here.
Yeah. This flood is going to change our county for the rest of my lifetime.
So most of the homes like that is, I mean, they'll have to be demolished probably.
Right, yeah, oh yeah. I think the biggest challenge for most people right now is electricity. These people who are still without electricity, and again, they're facing cold weather, cold temperatures. A lot of communities are trying to figure out how to survive winter without electricity. It's been tough, I mean, to be honest, but, you know, you gotta press through it the best you can, and, you know, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and put my faith there, and y'all get see us through.
So, you know, we were talking there in that video about facing winter without electricity. I'll give the power company a shout out here. You know, the first reports we were getting, they were telling us March, April, before a lot of these communities get power. And they were able to pull that off before Christmas. So they done amazing work. I mean, to see the areas that they were setting poles where there's no road left, there's no ditch line, there's nothing, those guys were amazing. That's actually a photo of my dad's truck. He was trying to get my grandmother that morning. His truck got swept away. And I guess that's about a mile down the river from where it was at. Here's, again, Pensacola that morning. That would have been on Saturday morning. You can see I had the other deputies from all over the state that arrived by then. So we're trying to get our way cut into these areas. And there we are at Michael Loop, trying to get through. We're evacuating a nursing home by helicopter. That photo. There's one of the many helicopters that came in to assist us. I actually took this photo. I was in a helicopter. This is Cattail Creek, and I thought it was pretty ingenious. If you see up there in the white rocks, it says 10 ppl, 11 a.m. We just happened to fly over at 11 a.m. There's 10 people getting on that helicopter. So they had no communication up there. And they took River Rock and would write how many people needed evacuated at what time. So I thought that was pretty smart, and it obviously worked. It was just one of the massive debris piles we were searching for bodies after the storm. That's some of my guys floating the river, searching for bodies after the storm.
Like anything I've ever seen before in my life. I wanted to see, because I want to separate what's real in the news, what's not, to see with my own eye. Mother Nature at its absolute worst. Perhaps also humanity at its best.
Just went to Yancey County, and its destruction is unbelievable there. But to have Donald Trump Jr. flying around with us in North Carolina and see the destruction for himself.
Watching these towns come together, people from all over the state coming in and just working, not for pay, just doing God's work. The mobilization efforts from some areas first, helping people in need, it was spectacular.
Gives you a lot of hope. Neighbor working to help neighbor, and North Carolinians helping North Carolinians.
This is not an effort that stops in 2 or 3 days. This is going to be, honestly, months, if not years, of recovery for some of these people who've lost everything.
Appreciate the President's son coming out and getting eyes on this. Please continue to pray for Western North Carolina.
What I saw today.
There's $60 billion in damages in all of Western North Carolina. And we've just toured Yancey County, just one county, and everywhere you look, you see destruction.
The water was rising so fast. It was just, I can't even tell you how fast it was rising. We were out 7 weeks of school.
Oh my gosh.
And so during this.
One thing that we need more of is summer programming for these students. The students in Yancey County lost 7 weeks of school this year. We need to make sure that all those kids have an opportunity for more instructional time this summer. The small businesses, they're really struggling. Many of them shut their doors for a long period of time. Tourists weren't coming up here spending their money. We have to help this community rebuild so that folks can come back stronger than ever.
So one thing that amazed me was how our kids, our school-age kids, our football teams, they all chipped in. You know, got out there and was delivering supplies. In my opinion, they may have missed 7 weeks of school, but they learned more of those 7 weeks than they'll learn in school. We turned our schools into shelters, distribution centers. That was where we was housing the National Guard, gymnasium. Our high school carpentry class, they started building tiny homes for people at the high school that had lost their homes right after the flood. That's going to be my grandmother Nate's new home. That's my mom and dad's, which those photos are old. They're actually going to be hanging shoe dogs starting tomorrow at my mom and dad's house. So that's all the pictures I've got, but you know, I've said through this whole thing, there's some of the things I saw during this flood that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But there's a lot of this stuff I wish everybody could see, the way this county came together. And then, not only the county, the way the country came together and came here and helped us was unreal. I can't say enough about a lot of these organizations. Samaritan's Purse has been unreal, Baptist Missions. There's just so many, I'm leaving them out, but it's amazing. And all the work they've done.